Some guys can go so long without, this urge that they'll completely throw away meeting the opposite gender whatsoever. They'll just go, I've been a monk for months and I have no urges. That's also not good. We're here to find a balance. You need to be somewhere in the middle. You can't be an addict, touch yourself every day, and you can't be a monk, touch yourself never in months. Neither is healthy. Biologically, you're not wired for either. You're somewhere in the middle.
Talking about bro science, what's your thoughts on NoFap?
I think that it depends what you are doing it for. Are you doing it because you've been told by, I don't know, some like incel forum that this is like what you got to do? Or are you doing it for dopamine detox thing? Are you doing it like in what context? Just in general, what do I think about it?
Yeah, and what are the contexts in which you think it's got some efficacy and which are the ones that you think is pie in the sky?
I think there are a lot of people who are sedentary hermits that basically never leave their house and use outlets like pornography to achieve that dopamine hit that is otherwise a lower barrier to entry way of achieving that smashing the dopamine button. It's a lot higher effort to go find a woman, go on a date with her, attract her, get her into your bed, have sexual intercourse and actually put energy expenditure into that activity as well. It's very easy to sit at your computer that you're already at, open up the browser, and smash the dopamine button. So a lot of people it's almost like a weirdly paralleled version of those rat studies where they just wired their brains and then give them the opportunity to smash this dopamine button, essentially, and they always choose to smash it over and over again. It's like that is very much paralleled, I think, in a lot of men nowadays, because it's just...
Adam, thanks, brother. Hey, Bo, I'm on your Discord. I help others make websites and learn SEO so they can grow their online businesses. I'd love to help the fellow tribe with their own goals. May I contact you about this? Yeah, message the mods and have them give me your information.
Such a ease of access now that there is nothing to dissuade them from doing it and not having the willpower or the even want to try and avoid it to go seek, a higher quality of life that might otherwise involve companionship or whatever it is. They very much will take the easy route and, it still achieves the same dopamine hit to them. So for them, they're just wired to be, for them, I think NoFap could be useful because at some point your biological urges will be like, get the fuck out there and have sex.
Because you're motivated so much just by frustration.
Yeah, like the apathy and the complacency that you have after busting a nut, it's just like you just don't really care about anything. Like why am I gonna go find a woman to be with when I'm satisfied and I just feel fine? I'm just chilling here. I don't need to.
Told you about the coping. It's not so much just adult entertainment's bad. It's touching yourself too much, too often, every single day fries your brain, whether you're consuming adult entertainment or not. It's a coping mechanism. Again, it's an easy button for dopamine. This is the issue here. You're teaching yourself whenever there's a struggle, whenever you're stressed, whenever you need to do something and you need to ease your insecurities, your whatever, you're just going to press the button. Oh, I'm just going to watch an adult entertainment video, touch myself, and now I'm going to feel better. Dopamine release. Feels good now. Until your problems come back again because you've never dealt with them. Truly. All you did was push them in the back of your mind temporarily while you got your dopamine hit. It absolutely destroys your ability to chase goals long term. It destroys your ability to persevere through hard times. It keeps you locked in place, man. You turn into a, quote, degenerate. For real. You're degenerating both mentally and physically because you don't have the drive to go out into the world and conquer it.
To do that.
So that's where it would be useful. Where's it not useful?
I think it's useful in individuals who it has actually had a detriment to their quality of life from a relationship standpoint, social interaction standpoint. Some people end up hindering their relationship quality with their girlfriend too because they're so porn addicted. They end up, over masturbating and then exposing themselves to stimuli that otherwise makes them relatively unresponsive in an actual real life setting with a woman. Like there are many scenarios in which I think NoFap, or more specifically no porn, potentially coupled with some degree of NoFap, is worthwhile. I think these get conflated a lot, is the NoFap, no porn thing. Like a lot of people just say NoFap, but in reality, a lot of it is problematic with the compounding effect of the pornography exposure. Because if you're just if you're just like thinking about your girlfriend, you bust a nut because you haven't seen her in, a while. I don't think that's bad necessarily. What else are you going to do? So it's the pornography and like tying that the dopamine hit to that activity that is overly problematic. And then the NoFap, if it's excessive fapping or it's hindering your drive to go do things in life.
Pathological fapping.
Yeah. Yeah. Like at that point, when you can actually sit down and objectively look at yourself and say, this is impeding my ability to either get high quality relationships, maintain them in some capacity, or it's not leading to what I feel to be a high quality of life in general. Like at that point, I think NoFap is absolutely worth trying. I think there's definitely a lower ceiling for where it's justified to do no porn versus I think NoFap, like I don't necessarily think NoFap needs to even be in the same conversation as no porn always, which it often is. People just assume it to be one and the same.
Yeah, it's got a branding. No porn's got a branding problem because it's not as catchy.
Yeah.
NoFap's quite catchy.
And I don't think, even with porn, I don't think it has a zero place. Like I think there are some scenarios in which, could be great. Maybe it excites your life. Who knows? It's just a matter of like the exposure, like too much or too little.
Yeah, the issue is that people it's not one or the other. People use both in conjunction, period. That's why when they say NoFap, they're basically saying no adult entertainment because the two go hand in hand. Haha, play on words there. But nobody ever watches porn purely for the artistic nature of the scenes and the incredible acting. It has its use in just touching yourself. That's what it's for. That's all people use it for, dude. So yeah, when people say NoFap, they're essentially saying give up the adult entertainment and then the rabbit hole where you actually have to go deeper and deeper into the more degenerate side of it, the more extreme, quote, hardcore side of that stuff in order to elicit the same dopamine hit that keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller as your brain gets used to more and more dopamine hits. That's the rabbit hole.
Too much of something is always bad in general. So as you would expect, at some point you are crossing the threshold into impeding your quality of life in some capacity.
I've read about risks online of going too long without coming for men. Mm-hmm. Any truth to that at all?
It's there was this one study I dug into. It was about ejaculation frequency, and there was a pretty clear trend whereby after a week, if you don't bust a nut, you will have a big spike in testosterone. And then thereafter, you end up having this plateau effect where it doesn't stay high. It kind of like dips back down and then plateaus at baseline. So I think there's some sort of biological like rhythm to trying to drive you to do something. And then it's...
And that's the key. The spike at a week, and then by week 2, you should be plateaued. And then you reset, right? This is just what we do in the Spartan Challenge. It's every 2 weeks. You could probably do once a week also. But you do get an insane drive at around the 2-week mark, dude. It starts from 1 week to 2 weeks. Once your body's peaked and you're at the peak and it's slowly lowering down, that's when you're getting the maximum effect. A lot of men feel it. Check the check-ins over on the Spartan Challenge, dude. They'll tell you that once you stop for that 2-week mark and restart, dude, even the next day after you release, you feel calmed down. You feel essentially tame until the buildup starts again and we elicit again whatever that biological effect is where boom, it's go time. We released, okay, we haven't released in a while. Get out there, get out in the world, conquer it, go talk to women, go do stuff. Risk-taking increases, all that, aggressiveness, everything, dude, gets you moving. This is what they call sexual transmutation when a man learns to take his sexual energy and focus it into different aspects of your life. It's life-changing. So I tell you guys, this is the power of that stuff, not some woohoo magic. We're not doing it because for nothing, bro. Just control yourself. It's degenerate to watch adult entertainment. Don't do it. It's not even about any of that, dude. It's about maximizing yourself as a man. Why spill your seed? It's biologically costly. Do you know how much one drop of your seed is worth compared to blood, for example? Try to look it up, dude. There's a costly process here to produce sperm in the testes. Why do you keep losing it every single day? Every single day you have to manufacture new sperm. Every single day you're releasing your seed. Do you think you were meant to do this in nature? No less. What man in nature is that successful that every single day he gets to release his seed? Why do you think it's built into us to have our testosterone levels spike when you go a week or two without releasing your seed? You don't think you can leverage that physically, mentally to get ahead in life?
It's almost like with fasting. If people fast the first few days, you're super hungry. You have these biological urges to go eat and get nutrients, and then your body sort of shifts into like a anti-catabolic, more like sustained, just preserve yourself, hibernation mode. And I think that very much applies to ejaculation and sexual activity too. Like if you go too long without it, your body goes into a state of like seemingly adjusting to no sexual activity to some extent.
I am no longer a reproductive being.
Yeah, like I am.
Form. Maybe I'm ancestrally, I am out on a hunt, or I'm lost somewhere, or I'm at war or something, and I need to just not be too concerned about this. So with that, if that was the case, and if this study was to be believed, and there's probably other factors and blah, blah, but that would suggest that around about a weekly to fortnightly cadence of either having or fapping would actually be an advantage, because I'm going to guess you only get this spike once. It's not like if you weren't to bust a nut again for the remainder of that month, you're not going to get weekly spikes each time. You get one and then it plateaus. So
you could repeat the cycle. If you ejaculated at one weekend, then you reset the clock every time. Yeah, but it's again, like I don't necessarily, this would be like a wild biohack to try and just recommend, and I don't necessarily like make sure you only bust once a week. Not saying that. It's just if you were somebody who was to actually follow like what happens biologically, that seems to be in line with what happens. And a lot of people that do NoFap, they will also find that it's extremely difficult at the beginning, and then after a while, it's like, oh, it's not that bad anymore.
And is that maybe something that you actually want to?
Joshua, hey brother, I'm stuck on what to learn for a certification. Got any advice? Dude, that's too open-ended of a question. Can't give you a real answer. I don't know what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, what you gravitate towards. That's a conversation in the Discord to have with all the guys. They can point you in the right direction.
To be adapted for.
Yeah.
Is that actually something that, it's so interesting.
Yeah, and like, do you want to be in a state of, for example, perpetual fasting where you just don't desire nutrients? Like maybe if you're a bear who's hibernating, like I don't know, but
yeah. Well,
and by the way, from Huberman, I watched an episode on this. I couldn't find it for the stream, but that testosterone spike, I think it's upwards of 400% that you get in the week. 400%.
I was talking to Hamza, who is kind of my window into the younger guys' personal development world, and he was saying that there's a lot of guys that he knows who have attached their sense of self-worth to the number of days since they last fapped.
Yeah, there's definitely something to be said about the feeling like you're working towards something and achieving something and have power over your urges.
Yep, and we see that in the Discord. There's guys going on day, who knows how long. They go beyond the 2 weeks, which is, their prerogative. I only recommend a 2 weeks max, but there's guys that are so dialed in and literally like boast that they can go this amount of days without having to touch themselves. Like it's a self-control flex. Like I'm controlling my urges. I'm not being controlled. And yes, it's because it's one of the hardest things in the challenge to beat is not touching yourself. Dude, since we're teenagers and had access to adult entertainment, you know how many young guys today, their brains are fried since before you could call them a teenager, dude. 10 years old, access to adult entertainment. It's wild. And they grow up to not know how to properly deal with stress, how to cope healthily.
Like you have a control over your body because you definitely feel like after you break a NoFap streak, because you succumb to the urges, you feel like a piece of shit, even though it felt good for a second. Like, God damn it, I just fucked up. And the people who are able to sustain and work past that, there's very much like an achievement of, I've gone 27 days without fapping or busting a nut. This is fantastic. I have what's Jerry Seinfeld say, or George? It's like power over my domain or something, or I control my domain. I forget what they said, but it's definitely something to be said about the restraining. Definitely giving guys a sense of reward for an achievement.
And there's downstream effects to being able to control yourself like that. If you choose to go beyond, a week or two, that's fine. It helps these guys because it just shows it's like reinforcing the self-belief that I am in control. Again, this is all stemming from the dopamine thing. You're teaching and rewiring your brain how to get pleasure from deeper sources, more meaningful tasks. One of them being is controlling yourself. Quote, day 27 of not touching myself. Feels good to write day 27 in the book today and knowing that I have no urge. Or if I do have an urge, I can control it. Because you read, dude, a lot of men will fail at day 2, day 3, day 4. It's hard. It's hard in the beginning, especially week 1 or 2 when you're retraining your burned out brain on how to cope with life in ways that you don't touch yourself. So it's insane.
Achievement of control of self, not giving in to urges. Like the same way you would not give into, I don't know, craving sugar or something and you feel good about it. I think some guys would expectedly tie their self-worth to, I don't need sex. I can go this long without even feeling like I need, and it could sometimes extend into a problematic thing where it's like, I don't even need a woman. Like, fuck the other gender. Like, I don't even need to.
That's the negative part of this, is there is a bit of a black pill, but some guys can go so long without, this urge that they'll completely throw away meeting the opposite gender whatsoever. They'll just go, I've been a monk for months and I have no urges. That's also not good. We're here to find a balance. You need to be somewhere in the middle. You can't be an addict, touch yourself every day, and you can't be a monk, touch yourself never in months. Neither is healthy. Biologically, you're not wired for either. You're somewhere in the middle. You should be getting, quote, biologically successful every once in a while. From the studies, we've seen that it's at a week to 2 weeks. And that's all you need to do to biohack and optimize. But trying to do this whole, like, I don't need women anymore. I've hacked the system. I don't even have urges for sex. Yeah, there's something wrong with your testosterone then. You need to get tested. To be a grown man with no urges to talk to women and any of that, dude, your T levels are probably in the gutter. I'd be surprised if you're over 300. 250 probably.
To have a companion because I'm like that much of a lone wolf who doesn't need to fap. I don't need a woman.
Monk mode for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
What's happening, people? If you enjoy